This video, I'm going to show you 4 simple mantras that you can use whenever you want to have completely irresistible magnetic energy. This will change the way you not only view yourself, but it'll change the way that people respond to you, because literally your energy field will be changing. Now, the first thing to understand about this, and I'm going to share with you a story because I used this just in the last couple days and it completely transformed the way that I interacted with somebody else, and I believe it's because the energy changed. Now, I've been saying this a lot in my videos, and that's because it's true. You get in life a reflection of who you are being. What you want, you say you lack. So if you want someone to notice you, if you want someone else's validation or approval, then that means that you're not actually getting it, because if you want it, you lack it. And when you are being the irresistible version of you, not because you're trying to get out of somebody else's validation or approval, but you're being it because it's who you are, that changes a lot about the energy. Now, something that I've shared before, even like a year or two ago, were these 4 simple mantras, and it had to do with what is called cleaning your own energy field. And the way this works is it works under the notion that we live in a form of holographic reality where we are all the one and we're also all having our own individual expressions, but that what we experience is a reflection of the energy we're putting out, which is very similar to you get in life a reflection of who you are being. And in a way, everybody in our lives is responding to us based on the energy we are emitting. So if we have within us beliefs that say that people don't notice me, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not worthy, reality, because it's a hologram type reality where everything's reflecting, what we'll find is that people will reflect back to those deeper subconscious beliefs. And until we become aware of those beliefs, those will be on autopilot. So when it comes to this, understand and think of it like this energy field right here. Now, we all have an electromagnetic energy that emits far beyond our body. And what the HeartMath Institute has shown is that the electromagnetic energy of the heart is thousands of times more powerful than that of the head. Now, this is why I think it's very important for people to be following their passion. When they're following their passion, they're in their hearts. That has a greater electromagnetic energy that goes around the body, which means you then perceive of more probabilities and synchronicities that are in alignment with that heart energy. Now, sometimes what can happen though is we have things that happen in our past. And what happens is we have certain beliefs and certain stories that then stay within our energy field. Now, for example, one of these that I've shared in many of my videos, but just as an example, is for a long time I had this belief that I had to fight for my freedom, because from 7 to 15 I had the ex-stepmom situation, and because I had to fight for my freedom, I also had the subconscious belief that women try to control me. So I have to fight for my freedom. So I'd attract ex-girlfriends that were very jealous. I would attract managers at jobs that I had that were very controlling, because it was replaying the same belief that I had of what I believe I deserved, and what I believe also in a certain way felt familiar. So that energy, I could say on the outside, this is what is happening. But really what was happening is on the inside, there was unhealed versions and parts of myself that was causing the outer projection to then vibrate with those probabilities and synchronicities, because that felt safe and familiar. It was really within me. Now, the 4 simple statements I'm going to share with you that will make you irresistible and magnetic is 4 simple statements, and I have a video that goes along with this as well that you can listen to whenever you want to really wire this in. But it's 4 simple statements that will completely change your life. And those are: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's called Ho'oponopono. And this is an ancient Hawaiian technique of these 4 simple statements, where there's a story about it, but in long story short, there was a doctor that was inside that of Hawaii Hospital, and it was like a mental hospital, and there were a lot of people there that were considered crazy, and there were like altercations every day with these people of fights and different things going on. And then this doctor what this person does is he starts working on himself. He starts using Ho'oponopono and saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And he starts doing it within himself because he realized that these patients on the outside of him, there's something in him that is actually perceiving them that way. And he started to change the way he perceived them. He started to do what's called cleaning his own energy. And within a period of time, there were less accidents, less people fighting. A lot of those patients ended up going home and becoming more sane somehow. And it was a very interesting story to and he explains how he changed within himself, how he cleaned the energy within himself, and how that had an effect on all the other people, which sometimes bakes certain parts of the reality is what is reality. I'm not saying that people don't have souls and it's but we're all reflections of each other in a very unique way. So I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you is a way of taking radical responsibility for the energy inside of you. And really what this gets down to even deeper, by the way, it gets down to the level of forgiveness. And you might say, well, people did crazy shit to me, why would I feel sorry? But it's realized that even if you have something, like when I had the whole thing with my ex-stepmom and I was attracting women that were trying to control me, there was something inside of myself that felt familiar with that. So I had anger towards my ex-stepmom. I had anger towards my own childhood, probably even some anger towards my dad for allowing it to happen. And there was this energy inside of me that I was feeling, and it was inside of me, and then I was projecting it onto the world, and I would attract people and probabilities and synchronicities that are equal to that. But in order for me to really change the outer reflection of what I was getting, what I had to do, and one of the things I did do, is I had to forgive my ex-stepmom. Because the more I held on to that energy, the more I attracted that reflection in my life. I see some people, they have maybe resentment towards their dad or resentment towards their mom. They hold on to it. And then they attract a partner that reflects back those characteristics. And even though they don't, and one of the reasons is because they are holding on to that energy and it's being projected out. So the key is taking radical responsibility. And when you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, you are apologizing almost on behalf of the collective. You're apologizing on the fact that you don't want to hold on to it any longer. Because the longer I held on to the pain and resentment towards my childhood, the more I attracted seeing similar things. So I had to forgive. And one of the things that made it a lot easier to forgive was I realized that people are always doing the best they can with where they're at. People are doing the best they can with the level of consciousness that they have. And I had to realize that, I also eventually realized that my ex-stepmom, she went through a lot of the same shit that my brother and I went through, and that's why she thought it was probably normal. Her dad was abusive towards her, so then she would take it out on my brother and I. So I'm not saying it's right, but I am saying it helped me understand a little bit more, and it made it a lot easier to forgive. So when you look at that energy and you're able to let go of it and forgive, like the old meaning you have of anger and resentment and energy that was unresolved in the body, you're able to release it. That's when you clean your energy field, and that's when you allow more light in, that's when you allow more of your higher self in, that's when it changes everything. So the story I wanted to share with you that happened the other day is I had this thing that was happening with my dad actually, where my dad, I would call my dad every now and then, and I would just want to talk to him. I'd just say, hey, Dad, how's everything going? How are you? How is my brothers and sisters? How is this? How's your work? How's your job? Everything. And then my dad would explain what was going on and just, oh, good, would explain where he was and what's going on in his life. And the last 2 times I called him, I felt like, my perception at least was that I would ask him how everything was going, and I felt like because sometimes he doesn't understand what I do necessarily, like the whole YouTube thing, traveling, retreats, all this stuff, he doesn't really get it, but he knows I'm successful, he's happy for me. But there's a feeling of I feel like sometimes maybe he doesn't care about my life or what I do. And I had this energy inside of me that felt kind of craving or wanting some level of for him to want and ask me how my life is going, what's going on, and be interested, because a lot of times, I'm not the most interested in some of the things that he's doing, but I still ask, But I realized as well that there was a certain level of the manipulative energy where I was asking because I was wanting him to ask me because I wanted to feel seen and heard from my dad, So one of the things I did is, there's a couple levels to this. I'll maybe make a whole nother video about that. But One of the things I did last night is I sat with that for about a week, and because I called him twice, and then both times he never really asked me about myself, and I felt kind of like, oh, maybe he doesn't care, maybe I got to accept this, all this stuff. And then last night, actually, that's what kind of inspired this video. Last night, I was like, you know what? I just came out of a very healthy place where I kind of forgave him and realized my dad's doing the best he can with where he is. He probably also thinks I'm very busy, and because I know he thinks like, oh, Aaron's always busy. Aaron's always traveling or doing stuff. So I think he also feels like, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil or whatever. It's like for all my siblings, it's like he normally gives the most attention to the ones that need it. You know what I mean? The ones that like have a lot of stuff going on. Whereas with me, maybe he's like, oh, Aaron doesn't need it. He's doing okay. So I started to understand a little bit maybe where he's coming from. And it made me realize that, and almost accept that he's doing the best he can with where he's at. But also I started using this process. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I started to heal within myself my own image of him. I started to accept him more. I started to forgive the whole situation and realize that also I can like embody the energy of validating and feeling that within myself, but also expressing my own desires and needs and not holding back. Because I didn't want to be like holding on to that. So what I did is last night I called him and I was going to tell him like, Dad, a couple times I've called you and it's like I asked you questions and stuff, but you never asked me about my life or how I'm doing, or you never seem interested. So I'm just wondering if maybe like, is there a reason for that? Do you not care, And I called him and I healed my own image of him and I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I just really came at peace within my own energy. And then I call him, he picks up, I start talking to him. And guess what happened? Without me saying anything, he's like, so how are you? How's everything going? Are you traveling? He started asking me questions. He seemed interested. It's almost like he read my mind. But then I thought about it and I realized, well, I kind of healed and let go of the resentment, the energy inside of myself that was feeling that block. And I started like doing the 4 simple mantras. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, knowing that everything on the outside is a reflection of how I feel on the inside. And that completely changed the energy. And then we had a great conversation. We talked for a while. We opened up about different things and it was like very powerful. And taking responsibility for like how we view others and how we even view ourselves, how we've forgiven ourselves. Because when we do that, we clean out our energy field and we allow more light to come in. So realize that on the outer reality, it is a reflection of the inner reality of who you are being. Now, the other thing I was going to share with you is one of the permission slips I was using for this, by the way, it's going to sound maybe kind of weird, but something that happened to me recently is I 2 years ago had a root canal done. 2 root canals, one on this side, one on this side, because I didn't go to the dentist for so long. And 2 years ago, what am I saying? 5 years ago, before I even got on YouTube, I had a root canal on my right side first, and then 2 years later on my left side before I left Vegas like 3 years ago. So I had 2 root canals done. Recently, I've learned that like your teeth are connected to all this other stuff in your body and all this stuff. And I went to a holistic doctor and like root canals aren't ideal. But recently I had pain come back and I realized I had to go to the dentist. Basically what I ended up doing is I got one of my teeth removed and I'm getting the root canal, got the teeth completely extracted and removed. So I was in kind of a little bit of pain. And basically what I'm doing is getting the teeth completely removed. Eventually this one too, it's a 6-month process to then get a dental implant right there, because having the root canal, it continues to get bacteria infected over the course of my whole life. Like every 5 years I'll have to get it fixed and stuff. So basically, long story short, I realized that the 2 teeth that I had were connected to my stomach, my spleen, and my kidneys. And I realized that it also, a lot of times, was a reflection of not being able to express yourself. So what I did is the 2 teeth, they're both the molars on each side are connected to expression. So what I did is I said, you know what? Instead of a week ago when I was talking to my dad and I was holding in some of that energy, I said, you know what? I'm going to use this as a permission slip, getting these teeth removed and getting like the implants. I'm going to use this as a permission slip, meaning that as I get them removed and they're healing and I'm getting like this new dental implant in that side, which is supposed to be way more energetically safe and like powerful, I'm going to wire it in that I am a new version of me that is more expressive, more vulnerable, more empowered. So I'm changing my self-image and becoming more expressive as I'm healing it, even as now, like this last week has been kind of painful because I had that teeth removed and now it's like healing and it feels a lot better now. However, it's like interesting, and I'm using it as a permission slip for me to wire in this new me. So in a way, by having this tooth removed and all of this stuff, and because it's connected to expression, I'm giving it that meaning. And that meaning is now basically helping me wire in this new me. So the reason I share that is because there's many things that happen in your life that you give any meaning you want to it, and by choosing the meaning you give into it, you can allow it to help you shift, to help you be a new you. So I'm like starting to see it as a part of my self-image that I am just this more expressive me. I have the uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations when need be. I allow myself to use that as a way of identity shifting myself. And you can use it in the same way. And one of the ways that's very powerful to use it is in tandem with this 4-step mantra. I'm sorry, because what's in me, if I perceive of something wrong in you, it's actually inside of me. I'm sorry. Forgiveness. Letting go of the old meaning. Please forgive me. Forgive me for having those thoughts. Forgive me for holding on to this energy that's inside of me. Thank you. Thank you is gratitude. Thank you for releasing it. Thank you for letting it go. I love you. And these 4 simple statements help you understand your loving connection to everything, that everything is a part of the one hologram, that we're all connected, we're all one consciousness, but we're also all having our own individual expressions. Now, this for me has been one of the most powerful realizations, one of the most powerful insights. And it's actually a part of the MAP process. If you haven't checked it out already, the MAP process is the magnetic activation process, the step-by-step process for completely transforming, letting go of all this energy so that you have you unleash the most magnetic energy from the inside out. It's also the key process to attracting your dream life. If you want to check it out for free, you go to www.aarondowdy.com/MAP, and you can check that out or click the link in the description box below. But learn that process because it'll help you to completely clean out your energy field and build on what we're talking about right now so you can attract the love you want, the life you want, live your purposeful time and in a very powerful way. Now, if you want to learn more about Ho'oponopono and the power of it, I have a more in-depth video right here. It's one of the most powerful videos I've made. And you can also listen to the meditation in it. I think it'll change your life. This video, I'm going to show you one of the most powerful healing modalities I've ever found. Something that you can simply listen to every single day, and you can watch yourself peel back layers that no longer serve you so that you can be who you're meant to be.